from the heating season. In fact, the issue is very topical. You all understand that now Naftogaz, with big efforts, was purchasing gas from Europe, from Russia, and was putting all efforts to reduce the price, but irrespective of what price it buys at, but it sells to population with a big discount. That is why it would be very responsible on behalf of consumers if they, understanding that they are buying at a privileged price, if they are saving this resource that they're using. So today, during the meeting of the Cabinet of Ministers, Mr. Yatsenyuk was saying that we addressed the regional administrations. Mr. Zubko last week had a conference call with the state regional administrations, and we are talking about the same, taking into account that the weather has warmed up, and in accordance with the law, at the temperature which is above 8 degrees during 3 days, the local councils have the right to stop heating season. Basically this way, that's very important, because during a month we consume a minimum, even at these temperatures, more than 1 billion cubic meters of gas. And so even now, that is $280, $300, which the state can save. The price at which the heat is sold to consumers is a privileged price and includes some small part of market price, and the gas is bought at 309 hryvnias, but market price is 8,900. It's like 20% of its real cost. And so we are now raising the issue of not using this gas so that the invoices are not given to people, because people do not need this service now. I understand that the nights are cold. They might be cold, but I believe that in such conditions we can use electricity to additionally heat heaters and other things. It's an issue which is not very simple, but in any case I would like to indicate that local authorities have to conduct the meetings and make decisions about shortening the heating season. But in different regions, this is more or less obvious or not so obvious situation. In the south, in Odessa, Kherson, Mykolaiv regions, even today, the weather is quite warm and the process is to be stopped. We do support such decisions. We will address the regional administrations and will support them in these decisions. That is it about this issue. As to negotiations with Russians, on the 20th of March, the next round of negotiations is appointed. It will be taking place in Brussels under the chairmanship of the European Commission. Mr. Shevchovich gets together the Gazprom and Naftogaz and the ministers from both sides, and the representatives of European Commission will be there, and they have to discuss the commercial terms for the so-called summer package. We have seen many statements made by Russian side that they are ready to make certain steps, including the reduction, provide reduction, discount, but we will get ready to that, and besides the price for and volumes, we will discuss the cost of the transit, because now Gazprom increased the volume of transit, but the question is for how long this will be transported. So in any case, I believe this will be the subject for negotiations. The third issue, I wanted to briefly inform you that recently I have attracted 2 experienced specialists into my team, and that's on oil and gas. That is Mr. Ruban, who for a long time was working in Ukrtransnafta, and besides transportation of oil, he knows in detail the market of refinery products, and that is the segment which was not fully represented in the ministry. I believe that this person will help us to strengthen it. He's the specialist, and I believe he's an experienced person who can help us a lot to regulate this market and to influence the market, and in principle to improve the understanding by the ministry of this segment. There are many problems with this segment. We saw that during the last 2-3 weeks the price went up significantly. Many understand why, because the valuation of hryvnia influences the pricing at this market, but we also understand that there's a big share of gray import, gray so-called local, non-gray market. The traders believe that 25-30% of the volume of the market of refinery products is illegal, and I believe that's a big volume, because that is approximately 2 million tons of refinery products, and that means that the budget doesn't receive taxes and so on. So we'll be working more actively on this segment. Besides, today there was a voting at the Cabinet of Ministers as to deputy on coal industry. The Cabinet of Ministers made the decision to dismiss Mr. Zhukov, and a new deputy was appointed, and that's Igor Martynenkov, who is quite known in this segment. He has been working in Lugansk region as deputy of Mr. Moskal, the coal mines. He has the education in that. He worked in Lugansk, Vugilia and Lugansk coal, and he is the person, he is young and active with economic background. He's an economist, and he will help conduct reforms in coal sector, taking into account that there are no subsidies, there are no sales, because I explained it once that there's a big problem that the state-owned 35 coal mines produce about 15,000 tons every day, but could sell only 3,000 tons. Very small volume, 20% maximum to Zahidenergo from Lviv basin. All other coal mines were either not operating or were producing coal which was put to storage facilities. And that would mean addressing another problem, which is payments. I explained that now there's quite a big debt from DTEC and Center Energo, mostly DTEC owes a lot. It's about 600 million hryvnias, which we cannot receive. There are certain agreements on how DTEC will be partially paying that debt, but that is a big problem now, and I hope that Mr. Martynenkov will be helping a lot in this process. Besides, I believe there's no secret that in Lviv and in Volyn, at present, there's quite a complicated situation with miners. During certain period of time, they were on strike. Today, finally, the local authorities and the administration and the ministry together managed to convince them to resume work, to resume operations of Lviv coal mines, because they were not operating for several days. The main requirements were payments of salaries, but besides, one more requirement was to replace the leadership at coal mines. There are many claims against directors of coal mines, and I believe now when we change the deputy minister, this will be the reason to review and maybe replace the leadership of the managers of coal mines. And I hope that we will find some understanding with trade unions and most active representatives of the coal miners. We will manage to create an adequate, to have an adequate management of coal mines, so that they are involved not just in operational activities, so that they work on sales. And that is what coal mines were not doing, because before that they were getting subsidies, and as a rule they were not thinking about marketing, about sales. I don't want this marketing to happen centralized. I believe that locally, every coal mine, understanding what the neighbors are, what the consumers are, on all the territories, whether that's in Lviv or Volynsk region, Lugansk, Donetsk region, and they understand who are the potential customers, and they can work with them actively. And I believe that we'll be trying to more actively involve them into these processes. In principle, that is more or less everything. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer. Union Information Agency, telling us about gas negotiations. You touched upon the transit of payment to Gazprom for transit, for services of transit. Could you please tell how much did Gazprom pay to Naftogaz for transit of gas to Europe in January? How much do they have to pay in February? And if we raise the issue of reviewing the tariffs for transit of gas, then to how much? In principle, I probably will not tell exactly how many millions. The rate of transit per 100 kilometers was 288 this quarter. 1,100 kilometers multiplied by volume of transit, 160, 170 cubic meters daily. I will look at the exact figure. It's about hundreds of millions, quite big sums. But the key figure is 288. That's the rate, dollars per 1,000 cubic meters per 100 kilometers. Objectively, that is the rate. We, as the side which renders the service, we want it to compensate not just our expenses, costs, but the maintenance of the infrastructure, the repairs, modernization, and so on and so forth. In principle, comparing these costs with other countries, I believe that that rate could be up to $5.50. It could be twice larger. And I believe that it will be very difficult to bargain that rate. But for myself, my objective is to increase this rate by minimum 30%. That is my internal expectation. Logic is very simple. The formula which exists was based on the volume of 100 million cubic meters. This year it's difficult to evaluate it because Gazprom increased the volume of transit during the last several days, during 1 week. Whether this volume will be maintained, it's difficult to say, but I believe that we'll be looking at a very simple logic. At 110 there was a formula, now the volume will reduce twice. The costs needed to support the system and to transit this gas, they are more or less constant. That is approximately 30% which are variable and 70% constant expenditures. So we can calculate the real cost based on this formula. The real cost of transit at the volume so could be doubled, but I believe that most probably, realistically, it will be less. 112 Ukraine. Could you in detail tell about your expectations from Brussels negotiations? Will there be new agreements signed? Will there be some agreements achieved on volumes? And the second one about stopping the heating season in southern cities. When will it happen? In the nearest days or weeks. I know exactly that in some regions there are already meetings being held of the oblast councils, regional councils and municipal councils, and decision is made on limiting the heating season, like starting from the 15th of March, the end of March, but this will not be the 15th of April, definitely. I believe in the south we can do it starting from the 15th of March. To the north, let's look at the temperatures, but I believe having understanding on what are the temperatures for at least 14 days, we see that maybe next week there will be some cooling down in Kiev, but in principle we do not expect to see any snow. So in the nearest future. But as to negotiations, the Russian side will be trying to sign some volumes with us, but we, in principle, the mechanism that we were working, according to which we were working, was very convenient. We had the opportunity to select when we need some volumes to make prepayments. We will manage to refuse, if we manage to refuse from advance payments and move to post payment, then there are many factors which could be reviewed. If there's readiness from Russian side to refuse from prepayment, then Ukrainian side will be ready to agree to some fixed volumes. But if not, then we'll be trying to keep the same mode. The main thing will be price, the cost of transit. As to volume, if this is still prepayment, then it will be not feasible to fix the volume. The price at the spot market in Europe went down to lower than $270 per 1,000 cubic meters, so we expect that the prices which will be discussed will be much lower than this level. I'm not ready to quote any figures, but this should be lower than 270. It's not professional to guess. I would like it to be less than $250. Ukrainian news, you said that it's not of principle to sell coal centralized. You are supporting the idea that every coal mine will be selling it. So are you supporting the idea of liquidating the coal of Ukraine? Now, to refuse from centralized sales of coal is impossible. Why? Because we don't have enough demand, because Vuglogirska wasn't operating to the full capacity, and DTEC was buying only limited volumes to give a chance to everyone to sell without coordinating actions via Vuhila of Ukraine was impossible, because that would lead to competition in price in terms of payment, and that would give a chance to buy to those who buy, not to pay to mines, and the mines would come to us with the requirement to get salaries paid. This is impossible now, but as soon as the balance between supply and demand moves to the situation when buyers are ready to buy more than what we can sell, we will immediately move to direct contracts. Is Martinenkov your first deputy now? Yes. And as to negotiations, you say that if Russia agrees about forgetting about prepayment, will it be back to take and buy, take and pay? No, it will not be take and pay. Your attitude is formal to this notion, take and pay. When you order the volume for a certain period of time, for tomorrow, for a month, still defining the volume. I'm ready to buy whatever. 2 pence, you confirm the volume. But the issue is that this volume shouldn't be too big. It shouldn't be for too long period of time when the demand and supply could change. If I sign a volume for a month, I see no problem with that. A month is enough, quite understandable period, and I can access my proposal, my supply, my demand. The plan always differs from the fact. There are reasons to that. But there shouldn't be a volume for a year, for a longer period of time, when the volume could change, when the demand could change significantly. We expect that the consumption will change because of modernization of infrastructure, because of energy efficiency, and now to sign big volumes makes sense.
As far as I understand, as soon as we are able to get good commercial conditions in terms of volumes, in terms of good price, we may fix these good commercial conditions in the contracts within 1 month horizon. Could you please come back to the gas issue, specifically about tariffs for households, for industrial consumer? This will be around 7,000, etc. Now there are predictions about 140, etc. Can we expect that the price will go down for households and for industrial enterprises? It's quite clear for households in rural areas this price is too high. Yeah, you're right. I mentioned that one of solutions might be to cut off gas consumption and use of other fuels. I understand that gas is convenient. You need not store it. You need not have special warehouses. Just open a tap and you have it. Probably we should think about hard fuels like wood, like coal, like brown coal. About prices, let's calculate. If we take 250 at an exchange rate of 20. This amounts to 5,000 plus transportation, which today amounts to 600 hryvnia plus VAT. Totally, this amounts to that very tariff. But domestically produced gas, but internally produced gas is not free. This is a commodity which is produced, is used for as a resource for privileges, and it will be used for those vulnerable groups who should be assisted. That is, those who can pay, they will pay, and those who are unable to pay, they will be subsidized. The procedure of subsidizing, this is a special issue. I believe this question should be asked to Mr. Rozenko, to the Minister of Social Policy, and recently he made presentation on that mechanisms of protection and subsidizing. No input to the microphone. Well, she will request for a subsidy. If she receives a bill for 100,000 of hryvnia, it will be compensated from the budget. She need not pay more than 15% of her minimal income. But all the utility payments will be put together, and they should not increase more than 15% of that pensioner's income. If there is a big family or poor family, they have special privileges, and they are calculated separately. Ukrainian news, I would like to specify about resuming work in Lviv Vogilla. They resumed their work not just free, but you paid something to them. What areas did you pay to them? We have paid almost the entire wages for December. There are minor areas for December wages because part of that money were sent on Monday, and not all of that portion of money have reached the miners, all the miners. By the end of the week, all wages for December will be paid. We started paying wages for January. As of today, we hope to get money from our debtors, from energy generating companies, and we expect to get this money by the end of this week, and we plan to pay at least for first half of January by the end of this week, or early next week. Also, we put our hopes on Volodymyr heat plant, and in our negotiations with the president, detect made some sacrifices, and next week probably will be able to pay for January.
You also mentioned that the taxes were not received by the budget because of the gray market of refinery products. But by the end of January, Ukernafta owed 1,600,000,000 to taxpayers, maybe some to tax authorities. Does the state has such an argument as Ukrtransgas? It depends on the state whether the gas will be transported, the gas of Ukernafta will be transported, but the state demonstrates that they cannot charge debts from Ukernafta. Could this issue be resolved in the nearest future? I can tell you that this is really the issue of which is a priority issue, and it's discussed at all the highest levels, at the level of the government, the president, the ministry. I hope that we will manage to come to agreement constructively. 1+1. Does Zujewska and Starobeshevska thermal power plants receive money for supply of electricity, and what's happened to these 200 million which were to be received by Donbas Energo? The Donbas Energo, the funds are frozen at the account, they have not received them. Zujewska and Starobeshevska power plants are not receiving money now. In fact, in accordance with the decision of the NERC, they will not be receiving that. At least physically, this money is not paid. Now, there was no decision on what to do with this money, but I believe that most probably the decision will be made that this money will be distributed according to the standard algorithm between all other participants of energy market. Zujewska and Starobeshevska plants will not be receiving any money for generated electricity. As to the coal mine Peremoga, that's another subject for negotiations with my colleague Russian minister. We have raised this issue several times in the written form during our conversations, and I believe that most probably we will be addressing and resolving that issue legally. I don't believe that your proposal is feasible. Cannot hear the comment, sorry. According to my information, yes, Slavyanska potentially can operate. It operates in the energy system of Ukraine. As far as I remember, There were some repair works done, and as soon as this work is completed, plus we have to bring coal. That's also the problem right now, because it uses anthracite grade, and we could not resolve this problem with this group of coals. It comes from Russia with difficulties, plus it's very expensive. The coal mines which are on the territory which are not controlled by us, logistically we could not transport it from there. Yesterday the first supply started via Ясиновата, via the railway Ясиновата-Синовата. Certain volume came from Donetsk region, and we hope that this process will continue and we'll be able to supply Ukrainian coal to our units. Will there be state subsidies provided in 2015? Ukrainian coal miners, will they receive more or less compared to the previous year? The question, if you are talking about people, coal miners, they were receiving salary in the past and now. They used to receive this salary on time. Unfortunately now we failed to pay them on time, and I explained why. I hope that we will quickly resolve that issue. I understand that they earn this money, they work hard, and we have to pay them. I agree to that. We're working on how to pay them, how to get money from our consumers. Besides, 200 million in the budget for 2015, and this money will also be used. Besides, we will see how the prices will change for coal. Now the exchange rate is getting stronger, and the price in the world market for coal went down. A month ago, the adequate price for the calorific value of 6,000 was $80. And that's FOB, but now it's about $70. The price goes down in the world market, and Russians are ready to sell at a lower price, and Europeans, the Southern Africa, the United States, but if we calculate it in hryvnias, that is still very expensive, and the key supplier still are Ukrainian producers.
And one more question. If Ukrainian mines will be closed, what will happen to Ukrainian miners? Whether you are ready to use experience from Poland, from Germany, where miners were paid their average wages for some years. There is such a program ready. We continue to upgrade it. In reality, taking into consideration geopolitical risks and challenges, it is not feasible and not rational to close mines which have potential. Unfortunately, in Volyn region, there are some mines which have exhausted their reserves and their potential. That is, keeping in mind the complicated geological structure of that mines, it is not feasible to develop them further. That's why we will try to decrease costs, production costs in the future and make them competitive with current coal prices. You saw the budget, except 200 millions of wages which had to be paid as arrears from 2014 and nothing else. The actual price is 1,400. Nominal price is around 1,200. That's without VAT. Yes, we will look at the demand. We will look at the supply at the international markets. Also, this price considerably influences the tariffs on electricity. When we see that demand is growing and that the economy starts functioning, then we will understand that industrial consumers could be offered higher tariffs. This year, we consume 10 up to 12% less than the last year. That's why we cannot raise tariffs on electricity immediately, if you allow me. About January resource of Ukernafta, whether you have reached an agreement with Ukernafta, whether there will be an auction on that additional resources from January. That's an interesting question. Currently, we plan to hold an auction. A position of Ukernafta is that they have sold that volume back in December. And there is a confirmation that they have paid for these volumes. Now there is an audit carried out checking this transaction, and within a week we will be able to clarify this issue. For me, it was a surprise because I believed that January had to be brought to the auction. But let us wait and look at the documents provided by Ukernafta, and later on I'll be able to comment on that materials. We need to review them and analyze, and then I will be able to answer a question. One more question about newly appointed, your first deputy minister, Mr. Martynenko, was put forward in late summer last year. Then trade unions interfered with the process and opposed this appointment. Whether you expect for further dispute on this matter. I never tried to interfere into this process. I realize that he is rather complicated personality, and nevertheless, I always had intention to make this market transparent, open, and quite often trade unions tried to lobby for somebody's interests, and not always these were miners whose interests the trade unions lobbied. That's why now I expect that we will need to resolve this issue. But in general, I believe that he is ready to those negotiations. He will be able to to participate in them, we will carry out negotiations. If there are no further questions, thank you very much to Mr. Demchyshyn.